another shape, we share the love. Embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. And now we stand, love's pure might. Watching the world in love and light. Heartbeat is one, our peaceful flag. Colors of harmony, leading the night. Now we stand, love's pure might.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Watching the world, sharing love and light. How about that, folks? Isn't it amazing to be able to do so, to work together as a team? We come here today for unity. That's what this channel is about. We're not here. Well, we know there's a lot of fighting that goes on in the comments, but that's not what we promote. We actually wish that each one could get along, right? Especially it's the holiday season. What a great time of the year as we try to get along. Folks, we have Eric Nickerson already in the building, one of our strong reporters. Eric often sends over a lot of the stories that I cover, so shout out to you, Eric. Last week I was out in your land where you began, out in San Diego. I had a great time out there. It was a great trip. We have Bordeaux in the building, another great moderator. JDP is in the building. Drabanat is back, and Drabanat is early and at it. I love to see Drabanat in the comments section. So, folks, I just want to tell you there's some breaking news. A lot of people are talking about it, in fact, that Sean Diddy Combs might be home this week. Now, let me just go over the article with you. It's coming straight from TMZ, folks. Yes, indeed. TMZ is reporting that Sean Diddy Combs has a chance of possibly coming home under perhaps a pardon or something of that nature. We don't know the exact details. Let me tell you why I think it might be some truth to this. Harvey over at TMZ. When I was at Sean Diddy Combs' trial every day, in fact, last week when I was at the No Kings over the weekend, I actually saw some of the TMZ subcontractors there. So they have people throughout the land. So I saw one of them. But let's get back to the trial. At the trial, I rubbed shoulders with Mark Garagos. Mark Garagos is the father of Tenny Garagos, which is Sean Diddy Combs, one of his leading attorneys. So Harvey at TMZ, I guess he's the owner, what have you. He does a show called Two Angry Men with Mark Garagos. So based on that fact and that Mark Garagos is heavily tied into the case, he has insider information. I follow them, and often he'll reveal that he has insider information. So I tend to believe that this information might be somewhat true, but we don't know. Sometimes it feels like they're putting out feelers to see how the public will respond to the fact that he might be pardoned. And Donald Trump just pardoned last week. Who? The first person can tell me that is $30 today. I'll be looking in the comment section. $30. Who did Donald Trump pardon or commute the sentence of last week? I think it was on Friday. So whoever can come up with that first will receive $30. All right, Eric is the winner. Eric, I'll get that over to you. So we'll see what happens this week. But right now, folks, just kick back with your coffee. If you're still drinking coffee, maybe your lunch, right? What are you having for lunch? Tell us in the comment section. No peanut butter and no apples. I'm allergic to both of those, folks. So can't have that. But let's see. Tell us what you're having and where you're going to be having lunch at. What state are you located? But let's get to the live. We're a little delayed by design because I wanted to go over the shutdown with you guys. So we're going to watch what they're saying about the shutdown. A lot of people are worried because it's affecting them financially. So let's get to it. Let's watch this. It's about 50 minutes, so kick back. I will go through some of the comments. So if you comment, I'll definitely share your thoughts. Or if something is, stands out, comes out, then I'll comment on it.
He's got to explain, like, they last voted before the shutdown, before the shutdown, it's not this vote. I mean, technically, like, it wasn't, but like.
Well, welcome everybody. Day 21 of the Democrat shutdown. It's now 3 weeks since the Democrats have decided to close the entire federal government. I mentioned yesterday when we were gathered that this is now the longest full shutdown in American history. And yet again, Senate Democrats voted for the 11th time.
Now, guys, this is somewhat live because it's probably finished now, but we're just going back to the beginning of it. So we're probably off by a few minutes, about an hour.
12 times overall, when you count House and Senate Democrats, to prolong the pain and keep the government closed. So we want to talk very briefly with you this morning about what that means, and then we're going to give you a little update on the Epstein matter. So far, this is what it means. So far, what this shutdown has caused to the economy and to the people of this country is really unconscionable. The U.S. economy has now lost hundreds of billions of dollars.
Okay, some people are complaining that I haven't answered yet, so let me just briefly go through the comments and see what you're talking about here. Okay, so let's go back through it real quick. Drabanot says it was by Soros. Okay, the machinist says, did he talk on Trump, saying the racist crap most blacks always do. Okay. All right. Eric says, bless someone else, Mel, with the $30. I will do that. Thank you. Squeeze Me says, hold me now. Okay. Benja says, explain how both sides lie. Okay. All right. Okay. Spaghetti says, Grinder Mike is a fascist crook. Squeeze Me says, because I'm 6 feet from the edge. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully that's not true. There's no need to jump. The machinist says, do you pay attention? Okay. Benja says, yay, bruv. Can you answer? Okay. Nothing serious so far, so I think someone's just trying to get at me. Talib says, quit it with both sides thing. There's one side that's clearly less honest than the other. Okay. All right. Spaghetti says, save healthcare benefits. All right. So I see what's happening here. All right. Let's get back to the video.
We have federal workers who are desperate for pay and uncertain when they will get their next paycheck. You got families wondering if they'll go without food assistance next month because many people rely upon that. New federal loans and disaster aid have come to a complete halt, and the stewards of our nuclear defense stockpile are being sent home on furlough. Think of the implications of all this. All of it hurts the economy, it hurts our national security, and it hurts the American people. And the Democrats seem not to care. I was watching Republican Senate Majority Whip Barrasso this morning on an interview, and he said it, I think, very succinctly. He said the Democrats are practicing the politics of pain. I'm not sure I could say that any better. That's exactly what it is. And you think of what's happening right now. Think of what they have demanded in exchange as a ransom, the hostage they've taken to reopen the government. They're demanding taxpayer-funded health benefits be restored to illegal aliens. They're demanding that we spend billions of dollars overseas for ridiculous programs that the American people do not support. They want to claw back the $50 billion that we just got signed into law on July 4th to support our rural hospitals and all sorts of other crazy things. They're demanding taxpayer-funded health benefits for illegal aliens instead of agreeing to pay our men and women in uniform and provide vital health services and all the things that our most vulnerable Americans depend upon. It is unforgivable. And this is an indisputable fact. Everybody can see this, and everybody in this room knows what I'm about to say is true. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are terrified of their far left base in New York and around the country. So they have given in to their demands to shut down the government so that they themselves can get the left's approval and somehow salvage their political careers. That is the whole story in one sentence, okay? That's why Schumer said shamelessly that every day of the shutdown gets better for us.
Okay, we're going to pause for a second. Murray Porter, you're going to be the winner of the $30. Send me your information via email. Watching the world 777 at gmail.com. The machinist says it's a song creed. Okay. All right. Menmon says Jesus is God. Okay. Menmon says illegal aliens get no benefits. Okay. Benja says that's not happening with MAGA. Okay. Mary Porter says, is Trump in this video? No, he isn't.
Who's the us? He's talking about he and Hakeem and the Democrats who are afraid of the far left base. So today I want to put a finer point on some of the very real consequences we're seeing and what they mean for Americans around the country. And I'll zoom in on some of these key Democrat states where the senators continue to dig their heels in and vote against opening the government. Yesterday from NBC News, here's the headline: air traffic control staffing issues cause flight delays across the country. The Secretary of Transportation said 53% of flight delays are now due to staffing issues, and usually that number is 5%. From Colorado, food banks face growing crises as shutdown impacts become a reality. That's the headline from Sky High News. What are Colorado's two Democrat senators doing? You've got Hickenlooper and Bennett. They have both now voted 11 times to keep the government closed. Virginia, here's the headline yesterday, KSL. Virginia employees fear shutdown's impact on veterans' medical care. And meanwhile, their two Democrat senators, Tim Kaine and Mark Warner, have voted repeatedly to put their thumb in the eye of those veterans, and they won't end this pain. From Hawaii, Hawaii News Now says, headline, government shutdown impacts telehealth. Seniors in Hawaii rely upon telehealth. Guess who's shutting it down? Their two Democrat senators, Brian Schatz and Mazie Hirono, voted again and again to keep the government closed and disrupt the health services for seniors in their own state. They've got a lot to answer to. From California, here's a headline, ABC 7 News. Alameda food banks step in to help TSA workers, families impacted by government shutdown. That is disgusting. And both of California's senators, Padilla and Schiff, have voted 11 times to block the pay of those TSA agents and their families, the paychecks they rely upon. From Illinois, WIFR, yesterday, federal courts in northern Illinois reduce operations due to government shutdown. The courts are reducing operations, and you've got Illinois Democrats, Senators Duckworth and Durbin have voted to keep the government closed.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick break here. Benja says food assistance, but the Republicans don't give a damn about premiums going away. Okay. The machinist says Charlie was a cover-up, so obvious. Okay. Minmon says U.S. hate immigrants. Okay. Melissa said, why does Trump need to be in this video? Good question. Okay. Benja says Trump hasn't said anything about the shutdown. Why? Okay. Minmon says we hate all immigrants. Wow. Glenn Nixon says Dems are the scum of the earth. Okay. Minmon says all immigrants should deserve jail time. Okay. Benja says no, Charlie promoted evil and he got evil. Laughing my ass off is simple. Okay. Martino says it's because Trump wants Americans to fold to his stupidity. Okay. Minmon is big time USA. Okay. The machinist says Benja is clueless. Okay. Rita says liar. Benja says because I can't think. Okay. Spaghetti Policy says Democrats want one thing: continue the legislation that keeps our health care from doubling. Think about that. Okay. Michael says sad part is he's lying. They know he's lying because they're all liars. Okay. Spaghetti says MAGA are fascist Nazis in suits. Okay. Benja says MAGA is only here because of lies. Okay. Charles, welcome in, Charles. Thank you to everybody. Please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We're going to cover this entire live that happened this morning that we're going through, and then we're going to cover some important news items you want to stick around for. But thank you for the like, share, and subscriptions. Please hit that like button. Benja says MAGA is only here because of lies. Okay. Charles says, what about the billions that is given to Israel each and every year? That's a good question. We need to unpack that. Benja says, proven lies and people still follow Trump. Okay, Beatrice says, These guys only know how to lie and bow to Trump. Okay, Deborah's in the building. Let's say her name, everybody. Everybody say Deborah. Okay, Bob says, God bless America. Spaghetti says, all Grinder Mike does is lie and gaslight. Oh, okay, so when you're saying Grinder Mike, you're talking about him. Now it's clicking. I'm delayed. Sorry. Richard says, we need to come together for the country. We are supposed to be on the same team. Wake up, Washington, peace and love. Okay, that's what we promote on the channel. In fact, the theme song is Watching the World, Sharing Love and Light. You're at the right place, my man. Yes, indeed. Richard, please come back and keep sharing the work. JDP is in the building. She says, enjoy what you're watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and consider becoming a member. That's awesome. Benja says, I'm in Washington. We are awake. We don't want Trump. Okay, they want Trump out of here, folks. Oh, not everybody feel that way. There's a lot of Trump supporters that come through. Destroyer says, you have no choice. You're owned by Israel. A lot of people feel like Israel is running the United States, folks. And you can get counsel if you speak otherwise. Spaghetti says, what a crock of crap. Okay, Benja says, we didn't want Trump in the first term. But y'all amnesia dum-dums brought him back. Oh, she's not happy about that. Okay. Leona says, you are such a fake person. Okay. Who is the fake person? Tell us about it. Name the person. Okay. Debbie says, Little Johnson will not speak to Democrats. Go do your job, fascist Johnson. Okay, let's get back to it.
We can do this all day long. That's a sample. Democrats used to care about the harm that shutdowns caused hardworking Americans, but now we can all see very clearly that was always based on politics and not principle, because they have thrown the principle out the window. And yesterday, there was an article from The Hill that laid bare that very fact. A Democrat senator was speaking anonymously and admitted, quote, people are going to get hammered if they vote for the House passed bill to reopen the government. The clean, nonpartisan CR, they're going to get hammered. Another insider said in that same story, quote, we would have enough votes to reopen the government if people were not terrified of getting the guillotine, okay? They mean it metaphorically, but in a political sense, that's exactly what they're concerned about. Now think about the fact that we're just laying out here. These are simple facts. We come out here every morning and remind the American people of what's going on. Do not let them distract you from the facts. The American people would have an open government if Democrats were not terrified of their radical base. That is the headline. Every single one of you should write that. That's the ugly truth. The Democrats are not governing in good faith. They're covering their own tail. They're out here decrying the so-called forthcoming health care crisis, they say. It's the one that they themselves created. The Democrats created Obamacare. They're the ones that created a subsidy with an expiration date. They're the ones that did all of this. Republicans are trying to fix it. And they're trying to blame Republicans for the crisis they themselves created. They cry foul when we won't bail them out of their own shutdown. I don't have anything to offer, as I've explained. I don't have any partisan priority I can pull off of the CR to make it more palatable for them. There's nothing to negotiate. They just have to do what they've always done in the past, that they did 13 times during the Biden administration, and they did as recently as March of this year, to open the government so that people can get their services and their paychecks. And they go before cameras incredibly, and they just lie to the American people over and over. It's a stunning thing to watch. It's time to stop the political games. The Democrats have got to stop this so that we can get back to the work here. For the sake of the American people, I hope they do. I hope Democrats finally come to their senses soon and the pain will end so we can reopen the government and get back to the hard work here. Let me say this. Now, while congressional Democrats continue their dangerous political games, the bipartisan House Committee on Oversight is conducting its investigation into the heinous crimes of Jeffrey.
Okay, guys, this is a great place to pause. I like to get the comments in. That's what we do here. Sorry for those who would like to watch this continuously. Benja says education appears and MAGA disappears. Okay. Brenda Mauler, thank you for your support. Thanks for liking, sharing, and thank you for subscribing. Thanks for telling it like it is, House Speaker Johnson. Okay, we have a supporter. Spaghetti says they don't want to open because the Democratic representatives that are supposed to be sworn in is a tie-breaking vote on the Epstein list. Now, keep in mind, he said that at the end of this, we're going to hear about the Epstein files. Perhaps we're going to have them finally. What do you think? DBO says, I need my health care for my son. He does chemo. We need our health care. Thank you so much for sharing that. I have 3 family members all battling cancer right now, and it's a terrifying situation. Benja says, Brenda is a socialist. Okay. Leona says, MAGA is evil and stupid and racist. Downfall of America. The evil people are imploding. Okay. So a lot of people not happy with MAGA today. Marco says the evil monkeys is real. It's not America's rep. It's demonic terrorism. From now can be called true un-Americans. Real Americans stand aside and watch God remove the evil of his blessed country. Okay. Anthony says MAGA are fascist Nazi pigs. Okay. Jeb says MAGA is education, facts, and common sense. Okay. Benja is laughing so loud. Okay. Benja says that's why Trump loves the dum-dums. Okay. Benja says Jen retarded. Okay. Walter says gaslighting and Democratic thing. Okay. Anthony says Donald Trump loves the uneducated people. Mary Porter is back at it again. She says, my students ask, is that all right with you, Melissa? Caden says, force AI PAC to register for a foreign lobby. Okay, DBO says, anyone surprised that ICE is still getting paid? Okay, they're still getting paid, folks. Geraldo says, Trump 2028. Okay, Martha says, all of these left knows as the spoon feed bullshit, hate, and Democratic leftists use to control over them, knowing that they will never look up facts if they make hating Trump flashy looking enough. Okay, Trump 28. Okay, Eric says thank you to everyone. Jeff says Democrats playing and simple hate America. Okay, Caden says most Americans agree on the same issues, but divisive out of politicians on both sides keep the people casting hate upon one another. Jeff says Democrats, plain and simple, they just hate America. Okay, all right. Thank you guys for your comments. Charles says Woodrow Wilson sold the nation out with the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank. Okay, that's a very good point. Very good point. Greed took over the system and became too corrupt. Christina says such crap. Let's get back to it.
Epstein, and it has continued. It has not stopped during the government shutdown. You have some of the, as I like to say, some of the toughest bulldogs in Congress on the Republican and Democrat side who are united in this cause for maximum transparency of the Epstein files. I'm for that. Chairman Comer is for that. The Oversight Committee chair, you'll hear from him in a moment. All these leadership team are, all the Republicans in the House are for maximum transparency and always have been. My good friend, Chairman James Comer, is going to give you an update on that shortly, but I just want to make a couple of key points very clearly before I bring him up here. Congressional Democrats are rudderless right now. I don't know how else to describe it. They don't have a message. They don't have a leader. They don't have any identifiable set of policy solutions for the problems facing the American people. Their party continues to hit all-time historic lows in poll after poll after poll, and many of you have reported on that. These are objective facts. They're utterly lost as a party, and everybody can see it. So what are they doing? They see a shiny object, and they latch onto it. Democrats did not say one word about the Epstein files for the entire Biden presidency. They had all the files in the Biden DOJ. They didn't say a word about it. 4 years, not a word. And suddenly now, they somehow convinced themselves that the Epstein files will be damaging to President Trump and Republicans in some way that they've imagined. And so they feign outrage. Let me be very clear about this. I've met with some of the Epstein victims. Some of these brave women have come forward. They were here on Capitol Hill, as you all know. We heard their stories. It's gut-wrenching. It's disgusting what they've been made to go through. And they bravely came forward. We're working around the clock to ensure that justice is served, and also as part of the oversight to figure out why justice has been delayed for so long. All credible information we will ensure is released to the public, and we also, at the same time, are fulfilling our responsibility to protect the innocent victims. By the witnesses' own testimony, these ladies who've come forward, they estimate there may be as many as 1,000 young women who were subjected to these heinous crimes. And many of them have chosen not to come forward and show their faces and reveal their names because it would compound the harm that they've already suffered. And so we want to protect those people. That's the sum total of all of this. That's our responsibility. And short of that, we want maximum transparency, and that is exactly what the American people are getting right now. That oversight investigation, they're working around the clock, and here's what the latest update, if you're not keeping track. They have now subpoenaed and released 43,000 pages of documents. They have subpoenaed and released DOJ and Epstein estate documents, with more to come. They've issued 11 deposition subpoenas, and they've released Bill Barr's deposition transcript. Just a few days ago, they released the transcript from the interview with Alexander Acosta. They requested and begun to receive suspicious activity reports from the Treasury Department, and the department is fully cooperating in that. And they published letters from Eric Holder, Merrick Garland, and James Comey stating they had no knowledge or information related to the committee's investigation. Those documents include the ones that were released on Friday of last week, okay? The Epstein estate documents include his personal phone logs, his travel logs, his financial records, the ledgers that many people have been wanting to see, and even his daily calendar. The investigation and continued document release is ongoing even as we speak. And let me say this clearly as well. The Bipartisan House Oversight Committee is already accomplishing what the discharge petition, that gambit, sought, and much more. The Epstein estate files that have been this new treasure trove, the third batch of information released right now, was not even included in the discharge petition. Didn't even think of it. And again, the investigation is bipartisan, it's nonstop, and it's far broader in scope than what is covered by the discharge petition, and has already yielded significant results. Unfortunately, some Democrats, and sadly even a couple of Republicans, have tried to make this a political issue. They seem to be...
Does anyone feel like there's something in the Epstein files relating to Donald Trump that's incriminating, nefarious? Tell us what you think. Or do you think it's just he's mentioned as being on the airplanes? Donald Trump says he's never been to the island. What do you guys honestly think? I'm asking for your honest opinion.
More interested in trying somehow to lay a glove on the president than in securing justice for these victims, and I think that is shameful. But as Chairman Comer will tell you, the work of the bipartisan investigation continues, and we brought him here to share with you some of those thoughts. Chairman Comer, thank you for your hard work, and take it away.
Okay, before we get to Comer, let's start here. Spaghetti says, Jeff, I'm a retired combat veteran, disabled, and I'm a Democrat. What have you done for America? I bet absolutely nothing. Okay, thank you for your comment. Judy says, you're such a liar. Obamacare was a blessing. Trump promised the health care plan and still hasn't given us any. Okay, Steve Mack says, release the Epstein files. You want to see them right now. Okay, Parallelish says, Moses, Grinder Mike. Everybody's calling him Grinder Mike. Okay, first time I'm hearing. I saw it yesterday. I didn't understand who was Grinder Mike. Okay, Angie says, y'all in charge. Okay, Marco, that's right. The Republicans are definitely in charge. I get your point. Marco says, never in history of America has domestic terrorists in the Senate and Congress of woke representatives ever revealed themselves to be. Prophecy warned us of these evil faces. I imagine your prophecy is stemming from the Bible, perhaps. Could you clarify that, Marco? Lovely says, that's the truth. JDP says hi to you. Parallelist says, Trump letting Diddy out. Okay, Diddy might be home this week. We'll see how America and the world feels about it. DBO says, liar, liar, pants on fire. Johnson is such a liar. Okay. Judy says, Eastern file, please. Perhaps she meant Epstein files. Yeti 100 says, bottom line, the Democrats are corrupt. It's a game. They push propaganda, fear mongering. Okay, a lot of people feel that way. ECM says, bullshit. The GOP is taking the middle class to oblivion. People are suffering, folks. Spaghetti says, all MAGA does is lie. It's really astounding to watch Grinder Mike. Okay. Parallelish says, host doesn't know what APAC is. Okay. All right. Thank you. Obviously. Okay, Mimi says, blame to the semen crowd. Oh, my goodness. Why Americans will pay billions. Okay, guys. Okay, One Love is back in the building. Shout out to you, One Love. I would like to know the credit scores of the Trump haters. I guarantee it's not above 550. Okay, Charles says two wings, Democrats and Republicans, same bird. Okay, that's a strong point you're making, right? All ultimately they all are humans on the same planet, right? In the same country. Parallelist says, yet they voted against to release the files. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. All right, let's get back to the video.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Speaker Johnson already said, today marks the 21st day of the Schumer shutdown. Democrats' political games are hurting hardworking Americans. This week, essential federal workers won't receive their paychecks because Democrats voted against paying them. That includes Border Patrol, CBP agents, TSA, FAA staff, DOD civilians, FEMA responders, and Capitol Police officers. The overwhelming majority of Americans oppose this Democrat shutdown. Democrats know it, so they're trying to distract from the fact that they shut down the government by pushing a false narrative about President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Let me be clear. No one is protecting Epstein or his associates. The House Oversight Committee is conducting a thorough review of the federal government's handling of the Epstein investigation, one that goes far beyond the discharge petition the legacy media is obsessed with. To date, the Oversight Committee has released over 43,000 pages of documents and issued 13 subpoenas. We've conducted a deposition with former U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr and a transcribed interview with former U.S. Labor Secretary Alex Acosta. I don't think I need to remind anyone in here, they are both Republicans and both former cabinet secretaries in the Trump administration. And guess what? Those interviews completely debunked the Democrat smear against President Trump. Barr stated that there was no evidence that President Trump was involved in Epstein's criminal activity. Acosta confirmed there was no contact with President Trump during the Florida case. No link, no conversations, nothing. Despite these facts, Democrats, especially Ranking Member Garcia, continue to spread lies about President Trump, and they are lies. They're infected with an incurable case of Trump derangement syndrome. Oversight Committee Democrats post daily about Epstein. In fact, they've posted or reposted about Epstein nearly 60 times on X since the shutdown began. You know how many times they posted about essential federal workers not receiving paychecks because they voted against funding the government? Once. They've posted about that once on the Democrat Oversight Committee and over 60 times about Epstein. You see where their priorities are. Let's be clear. Democrats don't care about transparency or accountability in this matter. The evidence we've gathered does not implicate President Trump in any way. Public reporting, survivor testimony, and official documents show that Bill Clinton had far closer ties to Epstein.
Whoa.
We're working to bring former President Clinton in for a deposition, but the Democrats aren't helping one bit. You would think, since we've already brought two former Trump cabinet secretaries in, they would be willing to bring in a Democrat who's had publicly a far closer relationship with especially Maxwell and Epstein. So why is that? That's a question every reporter should be asking Ranking Member Garcia and every Democrat on the committee. Why aren't you helping?
Do you guys believe him? Does he seem like honest guy, honest Abe? Can we call him that? Roy Nellis says Democrats are always bringing up other crap that doesn't even make any sense. Democrats are complaining about nothing all the time. Democrats need to open up the government and shut their mouths. Oh, right. Roy said it, folks. Randy, welcome back. I remember you. Trump is playing you. He threw him out of the Mar-a-Lago. You only seen him around him until he figured out what he was. It will come out and you will look stupid. Trump is not letting Diddy out. Okay. All right. Well, that's what they're saying. Good point. Randy, I understand where you're coming from. We'll have to see what happens. Eric says anyone seeing is needing to reevaluate. Okay. Don't you know, says Trump is innocent. Okay. All right. Kane says, why are you quoting a child's? Why are we kids? Okay. Mandy says, if Trump was on the island, the Democrats would have used that against him. Okay, good point. Eric says it's bipartisan affair. Now, Mandy, I will say people are saying that it's tied to Israel, and that's why both sides don't want to talk about it. So that's the point that I see in the comment section quite frequently. Anastasia says Trump pardons PDFs, insurrectionists, and frauds. Okay. AI Med Spa, my religious continuously always here, right? Says discuss the rainy day funds for your state. Okay, don't you know, says Democrats are blind. Wayne, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you all, guys, for the likes and the shares. Wayne says, but they never say what he is lying about, but calling him a liar. Okay, Ebony made a great comment. Ebony says, I don't think he is in the Epstein files that much, but I do think that some of his donors are, and that he wants to still get the financial support of them. Great point. That's a thinking person, Ebony, you are. Eric said both sides are on it. David Phelps says he lies about everything. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Curious One, welcome back from yesterday. Rethugs have no morals or values. Okay. Integrity out the door. Brian says, as the Blue Dog Democrat who pays attention to all the hearings, my party has lost their damn minds. Okay. Even the Democrats are thinking that their party has went astray. Okay, very good. Anastasia says, no, they aren't. Okay, Johnny says, remember the Democrats voted to fine us for not having insurance, then conspired to give it to the illegals for free. Great point, strong point. Okay, let's see what else people are saying here before we get right back to the video. Okay, Anastasia said they're all liars. Okay, JDP says like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified for upcoming shows. Okay, Gail says current Republicans suck. Okay, all right, very good. Thank you. Let's get back to the video.
To bring Bill Clinton in for an interview and deposition, just like we brought in Barr and Acosta. The Oversight Committee remains committed to accountability and transparency for the American people and for Epstein's victims. Our investigation has not stopped during this shutdown. We've released more documents just this past Friday. Democrats need to stop playing games and vote to reopen the government. With that, I yield back to the speaker.
Thank you, Chairman Comer, and truly appreciate the hard work you continue to do to get the facts out. And that's what this has always been about. I want to continue to get those facts out, and your committee has been working tirelessly to do just that. As we enter the third week of Chuck Schumer's shutdown, I think nobody can sum up just what is really going on better than the article yesterday in The Hill. You know, we've been saying.
Okay, guys, I'm going to pay a $20 cash app. Yeah, you can get a couple of days of coffee, maybe even a roll, if you can tell me his name and what distinctively happened to him around the time of Donald Trump's first time in office.
Up here for weeks that the real motivation behind the Democrat shutdown of the government is that they're afraid of the most radical far-left elements of the Democrat Party base. And yesterday, The Hill, in a pretty riveting article, laid bare the underbelly of the Democrat Party's motivation. It truly is fear of their own party's base that has driven the Democrats, especially in the Senate, to shut down the government.
Christy, you're right. And I just need you to put his name out and you win.
It's a calculated decision. And the continued votes, including yesterday, to keep the government shut down has been a direct result of the fear Democrats continue to have of their own party's base. Some of the most radical elements that you saw at the Hate America rally. We showed it up here on this dais yesterday with some of the most vile things that you saw. Many people that were holding signs calling for the death of the President of the United States. That's who Democrats in the Senate are most afraid of. And they're willing to inflict pain on millions of American families. And I think it's very important to understand what they're saying. There was one Senate Democrat aide who said people are going to get hammered by their.
All right, Christy, you won. So I just need you to send your Cash App to Watching the World 777@gmail.com.
Liberal base if they vote to open up the government. So they're not concerned about the millions of families who are suffering because they're keeping the government shut down. They're just worried about getting hammered from their own base. And the speaker laid out some of this too. There was another senator who said, quote, they'd vote to open up the government yesterday if left to their own devices, but don't want to risk an angry backlash.
Linda, if you felt like you won, I'll go back and look at the transcripts, but also send me your Cash App as well. Thank you.
From their base. They'd be more than willing to do it. They know it's the right thing to do to open up the government, but they're scared to death of the backlash from the radicals in the Democrat Party. Another person said enough Democrats would vote to reopen the government, quote, if people were not terrified.
And by the way, Christy, you're guaranteed you'll win because I stated it, so don't worry about it. But Linda, if you felt you won, you can get your $20 too. Thank you guys for the support. Please like, share, and subscribe.
Of getting the guillotine. You know what that means. When they're more scared of their own party's base, you talk about profiles in courage, that's what we're experiencing. And maybe the worst was this, because the speaker's gone over and over with some of the different states and the pain it's causing.
Now, I just want to pause for a second, right? It doesn't matter whether you're left, right, blue, red. If you're financially suffering because you're not receiving your aid that you normally get, do you want to hear about politics? If you're a Republican, do you want to hear about the Democrats when you're suffering and you want to know when the government's going to open up? If you're stuck in the airport somewhere, right, and you're suffering, do you care to hear about politics, or do you want to hear about good results in action?
Not just here in Washington, but all around the country. In every state, there is real pain being inflicted. People that aren't sure if they're going to get another paycheck if they're working for the federal government. And there's a state, Georgia, that has a number of military bases, a lot of other federal workers. NIH is headquartered in the state of Georgia. And what is one of their senators, Senator Ossoff, thinking about all this? Another Democrat said, Senator Ossoff's calculation is, quote, do I vote to open the government up and get crushed and can't raise a single dollar of low.
Okay, guys, let's get to a couple of the comments. Paul said this is the book of Revelation. Paul, what scripture are you referring to exactly in regards to what they're referring to? Thank you for your insight. Okay, thank you. Perfectly imperfect. Felt like I've seen you before. If anyone believes this man, you're really gullible. Okay, very good. Roger says, isn't there any safety devices to keep the country flowing? I don't think so. They always want to have some leverage there so they could shut it down and create some type of political environment to get the edge, folks. Texas Grill said Roger Trump could release the money, but he can't. Okay, Kyle says no, don't want to hear it. Christy says, okay, Christy, I put the email in the chat, so send it over. I'll take care of you. Paul says, Book of Revelation coming to light. One Love is in the building. AWS, Amazon Web Services, leading services provided for apps like Robinhood was down, and folks crying about Diddy. Exactly, right? What's more important? We're going to cover that today when we go through the news at noon, which is coming up shortly. So guys, stick around. We're going to get at some of the serious matters of life. Ray says, release the Epstein files. Jesus says Republicans don't want to listen to no one. Okay, Ronnie says the Republican scumbags control everything. He called them scumbags. Linda says we are not afraid of our humanitarian base. We are terrified of your self-serving at the expense of the health and well-being of all people, Dems and GOP. Now, because she mentioned about the health care, I just want to mention to you guys, as I went to Sean Diddy Combs' trial every day, I will be going also to Luigi Mangione. He's the young guy who took the life, I believe, of the CEO of United Healthcare. So tap in, subscribe to the channel. I will be covering to show you the inside scoop on that particular case as well.
$0 money? Or do I vote to shut the government down and get $3 million from online fundraising. That's disgusting. Senator Ossoff is more concerned about getting low-dollar donations from maybe some donor in California who's going to click on an email and give him $100 for his reelection, and so he's causing suffering on tens of thousands of people in his home state of Georgia. Senator Ossoff ought to send that tainted, dirty money back if he's raised $3 million off of the shutdown, off of the suffering he's caused, just so that he can get some more money from radicals around the country. Go look at his finance report during the shutdown. The low-dollar donations that he's more concerned about getting than opening up the government, which is the right thing to do, because they're scared to death of their base, because they want to keep getting low-dollar donations from the most radical members of the Democrat Party. That's what this is about. And we've been saying it, but now that Hill article truly exposed it, with anonymous senators finally speaking freely, with other Democrat aides admitting what's really going on their side. And when they asked the speaker, gee whiz, is there something else you can offer? What is there to offer to a party who's so morally corrupt and bankrupt that they're willing to sell out the American people because they're either scared of their base or they want to just keep getting low-dollar donations from donors around the country who are rooting for chaos for America, who want to undermine this country? That's what's going on here. And the American people are figuring it out. People in Georgia are figuring it out. They know why they're seeing the suffering, and their own two senators are voting for that suffering, and now you know why. It's laid out in full display for everybody to see. We're here ready to get back to the people's work for all the American people, not just for some far-left radical base who's holding the Democrat Party in D.C. hostage. Finally show some courage, some moral clarity. All we need is 5 senators to stand up and do the right thing, and it's long past time they do it. Now our whip, Tom Emmer.
Okay, before we get to him, we have Curious One says we want the facts and the truth, which isn't coming from these individuals. Okay. Energy Management says Republicans are garbage. Okay. Eric says let's get to 100 likes. I think we're around 54 likes, folks. If we could get to 100, that would be beautiful. Okay. Thank you so much. James Raby says, how can you blame the Democrats for the shutdown when you control all 3? Exactly. The Republicans definitely run the show right now. Okay. Marcelo says, Trump, American decadence. Okay. Roger says, illegal aliens aren't citizens. Okay. Good point. Okay. Curious One says, my point exactly, James. Very good. Mandy says, isn't Daddy's charge state charges and not federal? I guess you're talking about Diddy's. Yes, Diddy has federal charges indeed. Okay. Marcelo says, let's see, we covered that already. Let's see here. Marcelo says Trump, the face of the American decadence. Okay. Dwayne says that makes 0 sense. It's just a lie. Okay, vote red. Okay, vote red. Thank you guys for your comments. We have a lot of people here representing both sides. And that came from Barbie Nobody. Okay, thank you. Let's get to it.
Welcome to day 21 of the Democrats' shutdown, where Democrats have now voted 12 times against funding our government. Why is that? I'm going to read the same quotes from those anonymous Democrats. People are going to get hammered if they vote for the House-passed bill. A second person familiar with the political dynamics said centrist senators are fearful of breaking with leaders while party activists are planning the anti-Trump rallies. Another one, we would have enough votes to reopen the government if people were not terrified, as Steve and both Mike have pointed out, of getting the guillotine. Another Democrat strategist said the main driver is fundraising, which Steve just went over. Do I vote to open the government up and get crushed and can't raise a single dollar of low-dollar money? I mean, It's amazing, Steve. This is what it's all about. And this is what everybody in this room should be reporting every single day.
Guys, John makes a good point. He says, this is the Republican shutdown. Let's be honest. They're not working for the people. All they're worrying about is Israel and the stupid Russian conflict. Okay, Barbie, nobody says I voted for law and order. ICE is upholding U.S. immigration law. Thank you so much, Barbie, for your expression. Okay. B26470 says billions of other countries yet want to raise health care on American people. Definitely sending a lot of money out, and we have so many people suffering here. That's a great point. Okay, Paul Tenney says Jaguar Wright just found a piece of the puzzle on something from the late 90s, a sealed case that has something more disturbing. Okay, we'll have to hear about that. I did not hear about that at all. Melissa Alley says Trump is doing what I voted for. Okay. H. Bogart, welcome back. It's sad how much Democrats have been manipulated by their masters. Okay, David Tucker says, keep it shut down. Okay, John says, the hell with the Republicans.
They should be held accountable for this type of behavior because it is having serious consequences all across the country. Real Americans are getting hurt while these political elites in the defunct Democrat Party are playing political games. Border Patrol agents are being forced to go without mission-critical funding. Low-income families, nutrition assistance benefits like SNAP and WIC are being jeopardized, all so these Democrats can appease their radical pro-terrorist wing. That is what they are. You saw it, and anybody who wants to push back, then they should disavow any connection to people who are calling for the death of any elected official, let alone the President of the United States, which they seem to be fine with, or this Attorney General candidate in Virginia. They won't even do that. This is a party without a message, without a leader, and without a future at this point. They are well on their way to being left on the ash heap of history. It's despicable, and it's downright wrong. We've got news for Chuck Schumer and the soon-to-be former leader of the Democrats in the House. Your Hate America rally is over. It's past time for you to stop thinking about yourselves and start thinking about the people that you were hired to serve. The American people are not and should not be pawns in your shutdown games, and they should not be forced to suffer just so you can play politics here in Washington, D.C. Put an end to this madness, pass our clean CR, and let's reopen this government immediately. Our conference chair.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Comer, for being here. Again, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, right? Our side, a lot of facts. The other side, more headlines than anything, right? Press the other side on the facts, because the facts speak for themselves, no different than Chairman Comer laid out with all the work that he's doing and transparency, right? It's been 1 month since House Republicans passed a bill to keep your government open. And how did Democrats celebrate? Well, they partied with communists and socialists who hate America, right? While Democrats were marching with their radical mobs, Republicans were actually meeting with Americans, listening, helping, and working. Let me give you a few examples. Congressman Ciscomani visited a food bank helping families with food insecurity. Congressman Rick Allen stood with veterans left in limbo by the Democrats' political games. And Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis thanked U.S. Park police officers while they worked without pay. That's the contrast. Because as the leadership team behind me said, I'm sure those low dollar amounts that they're raising, they're probably giving those monies back to the food banks and
Okay, I don't hear a solution yet, but maybe it's coming. CRXR, welcome back. Thanks for always being here. Anti-ICE people conveniently forget the customs enforcement part of the ICE. Without them, our streets would be overrun with drugs and disease. Okay, thank you very much for that. Daniel says, what about the average Joe? Not the elite or the gay agenda. Okay. C. Pearson says, ICE is definitely not upholding the immigration law. They're rounding up anyone who looks or sounds non-American. Can you believe that ludicrousness? Okay, the Supreme Court said they could do that. Okay, David Tucker says Republicans have tried multiple times to pass it. Donna Thompson, welcome to you. Trump is a heartless jerk. I despise him. James Raby, thank you very much for your continued comments. Where's the 17 trillion? Okay. All right. Daniel says, watch out for the gay agenda. Okay. C. Pearson says, look it up if you don't believe him. Okay. Deborah Padilla says, what does the DEM stand for? Not Americans. They hate us. Okay.
And those people, right? No, they're putting it in their pockets. Republicans are working to help constituents navigate the chaos Democrats created when they chose to shut down the government. And the government and a shutdown should never be used for more wasteful spending. Democrats are performing for their radical audience. We see it time and time again. One side shows up for the American people. The other side shows off for their social media. The bottom line is this: Democrats are not fighting for you. They're fighting for the most radical 1% of their base, and of course, that low-dollar fundraising number. They're also leveraging the shutdown to demand $1.5 trillion in wasteful spending, climate pet projects in foreign countries, and health care for illegals. But Republicans won't cave. We won't fund the waste, fraud, and the abuse that the Democrats so violently and vehemently advocate for. We won't hand your tax dollars to illegals. Those are your tax dollars. And we won't let radicals dictate America's future. So it's time for the Democrats to wrap up the photo shoots and end the who's more radical contest and vote to reopen the government. Let's get the government reopened for our troops. Let's get the government reopened for our families. And let's get the government reopened for the American people. Thank you.
Questions? Far right, yes, sir.
Yeah, a CR is only one way to fund the government, and some of your members are kind of uncomfortable with being out on recess for a month. So why not bring everybody back, work through the appropriations that you haven't passed yet, and sort of do an end run around Hakeem Jeffries?
Yeah, so couple things. First of all, 99.5% of the House Republicans understand exactly what we're doing. They agree with it. We talk regularly. We'll have another conference call later today. They have been out doing very essential, very important work in their districts, and their constituents appreciate that. I mean, they've been everywhere because, as Chairwoman McClain said, they've got to help cover the bases for the crisis that's been created by the Democrats. Now, the calculus and the strategy on when I bring everybody back, people have said, are you going to change your strategy? And I've said to you all very plainly in good faith, we don't have a political strategy here. I don't have a strategy. We're just trying to do the right thing. We did what has been customary here and passed a simple CR. Again, this is really important, and it should be a headline in your journals as well. This is the first time in history that any party has shut down the government over a clean CR. It's a clean CR. That's the whole thing. There's nothing much more we can do. With regard to appropriations, the House Appropriations Committee has done its work. They got all 12 of the bills through committee, bipartisan fashion, by the way. Got them through committee. Now we got 3 off the floor. Senate got 3 off the floor. They don't match exactly, so they're going to conference committee. The appropriators are working during this period when we're not here on the floor. They're working and coordinating amongst themselves across the aisle and across chambers to get the next batch of approps ready and teed up for House passage. As soon as we get back to regular legislative session, we look forward to doing that, and the clock is ticking. Remember this as well. The CR was set to November 21st. Was that a random date? No, that date was chosen by Republicans and Democrat appropriators, decided upon to allow for 7 additional weeks so they could finish the job that you just asked about. Right now, the great irony is the Democrats who say they want everything to be done, they are the ones that are eating up the clock. They're preventing.
Raul says that YMCA dancer is such an idiot.
that very thing from happening. So many of you have asked me in the hallway, is November 21st going to allow enough time? That's becoming a very dicey prospect right now because we need every single day. Now, the appropriators are working right now. As we speak, they're working on it. I myself have spoken to appropriators in the Senate on the Democrat side. I mean, we're trying to prepare this work and to get it done as soon as possible, but it is true that the pressure gets turned up every day of the calendar that's eaten up by the Democrats' political nonsense. Back row, yes, sir, on the best.
Thanks. CBS News is out with reporting this morning that a Pardon January 6th rioter was charged and arrested this week with threatening to kill Hakeem Jeffries. Do you have any reaction to that?
No, terrible. That's the first I've heard of that. I don't know anything about it. But anybody who threatens to kill any political official, we denounce it absolutely. They ought to have justice fall upon their head. All right? How about that? Yes, sir. Second row right here.
Thank you, sir. The Senate has sort of had this will-they, won't-they relationship with a Russia sanctions bill that has overwhelming bipartisan support. Would you like to see the Senate have a more accelerated timeline? And if they pass it during the shutdown, would you bring the House back to vote on it?
Well, I don't anticipate it'll be passed during the shutdown, but there is a big appetite among Republicans, House and Senate, I can tell you, for tough sanctions on Russia. The president, as you know, you can take him at his own word. He's lost his patience with Putin. He's not a good faith operator.
Okay. L. Tony says, I hope his phone is on mute so his grinder notifications don't go through. Okay. Bert Poindexter says, I don't see any MAGAs working those farms yet. Okay. Nehemiah says, Trump first shook Putin's hand in the 7-7-17 when Putin was, and the chat is moving so fast, was months old. Okay. All right. Paul Tenney says, where's Anthony Weiner's laptop? Okay, still want to know. People still want to know. Where are the Epstein files? Cynthia Whitaker says he is dancing. Okay. All right. Paul Salce says no more free EBT under taxpayers' expense. Get your ass a job. Okay. Thank you very much, Paul, for just being direct to the point. John says the dumbass Republicans think they're making America great. Okay. All right, let's get back to it.
Obviously, he's the aggressor in an unjust war, and it needs to end. The president's using every leverage point he has to bring that a resolution, bring an end to that war that's killed so many people and cost so much money, and it's just been a terrible thing. Everybody on the world stage, I talked to my colleagues, my counterparts, the speakers of the various parliaments of the other free countries, the G7 and others, and everybody's unified on this. Everybody wants this to end. President Trump's the only strong enough figure on the world stage who has a chance of doing that. And you know he's bent over backwards to make it happen. Now, what we need right now is we need good faith on the part of Russia and Ukraine, that they would come to the table to work on a diplomatic solution to bring this to an end. The president's trying to force that in every way he can. The Republicans in Congress are ready to provide support for that, and any leverage that we can, including sanctions, we're open to, and we'll see how that develops. Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Speaker, getting back to the threat to Hakeem Jeffries, this is one of a number of individuals that were pardoned as a result of January 6th who have been rearrested on various charges. Did President Trump make a mistake by just offering up a blanket pardon for every single person that was convicted as a result of
I don't know any of the details of this at all. I don't know who's been alleged to have been involved in this. I will say that anybody who threatens political violence against elected officials or anyone else should be have the full weight and measure of the Department of Justice on their head. I trust that will happen. I hope it will. We are intellectually consistent about that, obviously. I will tell you this. The violence on the left is far more prevalent than the violence on the right. Don't make me go through the list. You all know it. All of these the assassination culture that's been advanced now.
Okay, is that true? What do you guys think? Tell us in the comments. If someone would like to come up and also express yourself, I'm going to drop the link. But when you come up, please be very respectful and properly dressed. We've had some incidents in the past that were not so pleasant. So, yeah, come up and express yourself, ask questions, or educate the people.
This is the left in almost every case that is advancing this and not the right. So let's not make it a partisan issue. You don't want me to go there. We're just going to say anybody, any deranged individual, this has to stop. And the rhetoric.
To answer your question, Cynthia, we're going to be covering the construction project at the White House, so stay tuned. We're about to get to news at noon.
That you saw on display on Saturday, we highlighted yesterday. It plays into this, okay? There are people that get triggered. There are deranged people in society when they hear elected officials participating in a rally that was paid for by Soros and sponsored by communists with signs and placards and
Thomas Quintana says, U.S. Army trains to fight Russia. We learned that from the basic training in 2-hour stations. Thank you for your service, Thomas. And also, thank you for sharing those boots on the ground type of concept with us. Okay. Sharon Lee says, Trump only does things, and the chat's moving fast. Sorry. Trump only does things that will benefit himself. Gaza will have Trump hotels that he and his family will benefit from. This was not a humanitarian effort. It was a money effort. Yesterday, Sharon, I don't know if you were here or not, but we did cover that even in crypto, more than real estate, that Trump and his family has brought in $5 billion at least. We covered that yesterday at noon.
And mantras that were repeated that we should bring death to, fascist politicians. What they mean is they call every Republican a fascist now. They're calling for the death of elected officials. Please, enough of that. We got to stop it. Stop the rhetoric. Stop all the nonsense.
Okay, to answer his question, Whitney says, what party were the assassination attempts shooters? Okay, which party was that? Tell us, was it primarily Democrats or Republicans that are taking the shots from the buildings or perhaps going into the churches? There's been so many shootings lately. She asked a valid question. Perhaps you guys could answer.
And
But what
stop
about
the
the
violence.
blanket pardon, sir? Was that the blanket pardons, was that
Look,
appropriate?
I'm not going to address it because I'm not sure of the details of this, and I think we've said enough. You know where we stand, and
David says, David Reynoso says both sides.
every one of you should stand there the same way. We denounce violence from anybody, anytime. Those people should be arrested and tried.
Mr.
Thank you.
Speaker, should the president have bipartisan negotiations to end the shutdown? Why isn't he involved?
Okay, very good. So that was live this morning, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in as I covered that. Now we're going to get to the news at noon. We got quite a bit in store for you. But first, we're going to get into John Bolton, right? What's going on with John Bolton? We're seeing a lot of officials taking the hit, getting indicted. We saw also, right, Letitia James, right? So what's happening? Is this some sort of vendetta? Is it revenge? Or did John Bolton break the law? I will be traveling down to cover this if it touches the courts, and I have so many cases to cover, but I look forward to bringing you guys the facts, just as I did with Sean Diddy Combs' case. As you guys may know, I went to the courthouse every day and tried to bring you back solid information. But let's see what's happening with John Bolton.
Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, arrived at a federal courthouse in Maryland. He is facing charges of mishandling classified documents.
I want you guys to keep in mind, who was it that installed John Bolton in his role? Who was the president? Answer that, please.
Bolton, now a vocal Trump critic, says the charges are politically motivated. But there are some key differences between Bolton's case and those against two other Trump critics indicted by the DOJ recently. CNN's Caitlin Polance is outside court. Give us some sense of what you saw this morning as John Bolton made his way to turn himself in.
Well, Sarah, he didn't say anything, not much at all, but John Bolton is here now at the federal courthouse. His lawyers are here, prosecutors are here. We're just waiting to see when a judge would take the bench for Bolton to have his initial appearance in federal court facing this indictment. The indictment, it's 26 pages long, and it is lengthy because there's so much detail about what John Bolton is accused of. 18 counts of transmitting or possessing classified information, national defense information that he shouldn't have had in an unsecured way after he was the national security advisor. Much of the detail in this indictment, Sarah, it is about what was happening in 2018.
Yes, Paul, that's exactly what you should do. You should start a YouTube channel and start filming. I think you'll be very good at it. Sharon Lee says that Trump was not arrested for not properly handling files, Why is he? Okay, exactly. Good point. Good point. I think the prosecutor that was on Joe Biden's case is also looking into the special prosecutor is also the one that's handling John Bolton case as well. Okay, let's see here. H. Boger says Trump fired John Bolton because he was openly against us getting out of Afghanistan. Okay, all right. Letitia James, according to Paul, Letitia James effed around and found out, and Trump's turn to prosecute. I also think that Fannie Willis in Georgia should be on the lookout as well, because Donald Trump has turned the table. It's no fun when the rabbit has the gun. George says they use this man as the fall guy. Okay, thank you, George, for your continued comments. Timothy says Letitia James is a victim of gravity. She's too fat. Oh, my. Okay, Gilbert says he's going to write a book and tell. Okay, George says excellent point. Very good. One Love says Bolton was a Trump install, but he was a Democratic chill. Okay, let's get back to it.
And 2019, when John Bolton was working in the Trump White House, taking notes of his day. He's a meticulous note taker. He's a very hard worker, someone who was here even at the courthouse almost before it opened this morning. And he's a person then who was recording his notes into Word documents, and then those Word documents he was sharing with, allegedly, 2 family members that he shouldn't have been sharing with on unsecured email accounts, and then also having them printed out and kept in his house, which he was not allowed to do after he was National Security Advisor as well. Some of the detail here is very likely to be read to him in court when he makes this initial appearance today, Sarah. He would potentially have the opportunity to plead not guilty at this time. He does say he wants to fight his charges. He's accused Donald Trump of...
When we see people like John Bolton taking a hit, getting indicted, Letitia James, does it affect the American people and their trust for government, right? Does it affect the overall perception? Tell us what you think. Bordeaux says, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Roberto says, this is just a distraction. Kirk Steele says, yes, okay. All right, Daniel Banana says, Hillary Biden both did the same and yet 0 charges. Okay, Paul says, what is it about illegal that the Democrats don't understand? Okay, very good. Sharon Lee says, definitely, especially this administration. All right. Roberto says, not really. It's just in the question. Okay. All right. Let's finish up.
Weaponizing the Justice Department against him for a political outcome. But some of the detail here that he will be told, very likely by a judge, is that he's accused of telling these people in his family that he wanted his notes to be saved for, quote, a diary in the future.
Okay, so anti says the rabbit with the gun will end up shooting its own foot. Israel and Hamas are still at war, and Mexico paid nothing on the wall. All right, thank you for that insight. Paul Tenney says, I trust the government as much as the real Nelson Mandela, not the clone. Okay, very good. Thank you for your thoughts. Let's get to the story that I'm so sad about. Kada Scott. In fact, they're actually celebrating her life today, having a vigil for her. For those of you who may not be familiar with this case, she was unalived within the last week or so by a 21-year-old individual that pretty much was obsessed with her, was stalking her. It's a very sad story, but let's see the new developments.
The big story on Action News is the update into the investigation into Kada Scott's disappearance and death. Authorities say tips from the public helped lead them to Kada's body, as well as a torched car connected to the case. Kada went missing October 4th while working an overnight shift.
Action News reporter Chad Berdelli standing by right now with more on the suspect's criminal past. But we're going to begin with reporter Taronda Thomas live at the site of the vigil for Kada right now with an investigative update today. Taronda.
Yes, Brian and Sarah, this is the abandoned school where Kata Scott's body was found, and now it's going to be the site of a vigil that's being organized right now. I want to give you a look at a place where people have been leaving flowers and balloons in memory of Kata. The site is also key because investigators say they have video evidence from nearby. They're using it to build a case against the suspect, who was originally facing kidnapping charges and is now facing a lot more.
Our hearts are broken beyond measure.
The family of Kata Scott devastated by the latest developments in her disappearance and death.
It has been confirmed that these are the human remains of Kata Scott.
Now comes the work to bring her killer to justice. Today, the Philadelphia District Attorney announced
I believe she was Miss Philadelphia, very beautiful young lady, but unfortunately she was stalked by this individual. And actually, there's some other videos, I'm going to be putting it out later today, where basically he discovered a lot of information about her from her inner circle. So oftentimes you have to be careful what information you put out, not only online, but what you tell your so-called friends.
new charges against the prime suspect, 21-year-old Keon King. Those charges include tampering with evidence and arson. Investigators have connected King to a black Hyundai that was stolen the day before Kata Scott went missing and found on fire a few days later.
We recovered additional evidence, including video evidence that confirms that this vehicle, we believe, is the vehicle that Mr. Keon King used to move Ms. Scott.
The suspect's cell phone data also connects him to sites linked to that black Hyundai. King is also...
So they're basically saying he stole a car the day before, just so he could commit this act.
Facing conspiracy charges. Investigators looking into whether someone else was involved, driving a gold Toyota police recovered last week.
We believe the people in these vehicles are working together.
The district attorney's office anticipates filing homicide charges once the autopsy is complete. A tip led to the discovery of Kata Scott's body on Saturday when police searched the grounds of the vacant Ada Lewis Middle School a second time.
They did give more specific details in terms of where to look, and ultimately that is what led us to her.
Just as the community came together to search, they're asked to come together to support. City Council member Anthony Phillips collecting donations for Scott's family.
Kata Scott mattered. Her life matters.
Scott's family, speaking through a statement, encourages the community now to focus not on her death, but on her life.
Please honor Kata's memory by showing kindness and care to one another, just as she did every day of her life.
And you're taking a look at the podium that's being set up for this vigil that's going to be held in Kata's honor. We do know that community members, local and state dignitaries will be here because, you know, this story has gotten local and national attention. So many people caring and praying for Kata Scott, now seeing this end be so tragic. Now, the district attorney's office will not say how Kata Scott and the suspect knew each other, just that there was likely some sort of cell phone communication. The district attorney's office is also still taking tips in this case. They're asking for the community's help for those wanting to donate to the Scott family. They're collecting donations that include things like gift cards, personal care items, and non-perishable food. Those can be dropped off at the office of Councilmember Anthony Phillips on Wadsworth Avenue. We are live in East Mount Airy. Taronda Thomas, Channel 6 Action News.
Okay, Taronda, thank you. Let's switch live now to Action News reporter Chad Pradelli with more on a previous case against King that was abruptly dropped earlier this year, and new questions around that today, Chad.
Yeah, Brian, as you know, there have long been critics.
Okay, so James Liccardo says the country was founded by criminals, run by criminals, and crime is the biggest industry. Okay, thank you, James. Thank you for your participation. Subscribe, come back, lock in with us. Paul Tenney says they have caused the issues in order to take the credit for taking it out. Okay, that's an interesting twist. Okay, thank you very much. Timothy Concepcion says Letitia James puts a strain on the environment. She's too fat. Oh, my. Okay, somebody really has an issue with her weight. Okay, Fernando says Remain is correct, only this with Trump. Okay, One Love says he looks like a Caribbean. Okay.
Of District Attorney Larry Krasner, and some of those critics are getting much louder, and it's because of his office's handling of a prior case involving Keon King. Hanging from an overpass on the Vine Street Expressway is a sign that reads, Kata's blood is on Krasner's hands. District Attorney Larry Krasner and his office have come under fire for withdrawing charges against Keon King related to a separate domestic violence and kidnapping case earlier this year at the 1900 block of North 23rd Street. King allegedly attempted to break into the...
All right, so here's a video previously back, I believe, in April. Allegedly, this is the guy who took her life. He's out here allegedly stalking someone else.
Home of a woman, appeared to be holding a gun and repeatedly peered through windows. After several failed attempts to enter the residence, court records say that when the complainant left her house with a friend, King jumped out of his car, yanked her by her hair, threw into his car, and threatened he'd kill the friend if she intervened. He then allegedly assaulted the victim in the car as he drove through Philadelphia, before eventually dropping her off in Fishtown. The case was eventually withdrawn by the DA's office after the alleged victim and witness failed to show up for court. Krasner again admitted mistakes during a press conference today.
The buck stops here. That is on me, that it was not handled in that fashion.
Last week, the DA appeared critical of the judge in the case, saying bail was set too low at $200,000. 10% of which King paid to get out on bond, and claimed his office didn't petition for a higher bail as to not anger, quote, judges on call overnight. A spokesperson for the courts, Marty O'Rourke, put out a statement last week saying in part, the DA's comments are appallingly...
Roberto says he should be charged with the full max of the law.
Disrespectful and a sad attempt on his part to find a scapegoat for his own failings on this matter.
As we have indicated before, I do believe that there is a way this could have been presented without those witnesses.
And one way the DA admits and critics acknowledge, it's tough to try cases when a complainant or witnesses do not come forward. But in that prior case, there was significant video evidence of much of the alleged crime. I'm live in East Mount.
Okay, very good. So that's the update when it comes to such a sad case. A lot of you have already brought up the demolition or the construction going on at the White House. We're going to take a look at that now.
Take a look at this. Demolition of part of the White House's East Wing has begun. This is where the president is planning to build a new state ballroom. He said it won't cost taxpayers any money. Sources tell CBS News multiple companies have made pledges of millions of dollars to fund it. Let's get you live to the White House now. CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Nancy Cordes.
Do you guys think they should call it the Trump wing? What do you think? Wouldn't that be pretty cool?
Is standing by. Nancy, good morning.
Or maybe the Trump ballroom. How about that?
Great to have you with us. Let's talk about the shutdown, because it is now among the longest in U.S. history. There's pressure. People are missing paychecks, multiple. So what are GOP senators and President Trump expected to speak about over lunch today?
They are going to show a unified front, Errol, and they are going to continue to argue that there can be no negotiation over...
One Love says he's building his permanent home. Wow. I think it will be his permanent home. He'll probably be there a long time. Paul Tenney says the TKO room. Okay. Sharon Lee says it's just horrible. Cynthia Whitaker says show the receipts.
The Democrats' demands until Democrats vote to reopen the government. So we are now moving into week 4 with no bipartisan talks on the horizon. Democrats continue to hold out for the reinstitution of Obamacare premium subsidies that are set to expire. Republicans saying, we might be willing to negotiate on that, and the president might be open to that too, but not until the government has reopened. So really the only major development...
Jeffrey says call it Melania Hall. That has a ring to it, right?
We're looking at potentially this week, Errol, is the possibility that the Senate will vote on a bill that would make sure that essential workers, these are government workers who are on the job right now. They are not furloughed, but they're not getting paid. And that includes military personnel, that they, at the very least, would get paid during this shutdown. So we could see a vote on that later this week.
And the other standout footage from where you are, Nancy, is this construction for the White House ballroom and the demolition of such a famous building that is cherished by so many. Can you help us understand why we're seeing this demolition, considering the president said it would actually add to existing structures, this new ballroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a bit of a surprise to many, especially the scope of the demolition that you're looking at. That is the historic East Wing of the White House. Back in July, when President Trump was talking about this ballroom project initially.
Okay, Starra Burns says Obamacare. H. Bogart says the Democrats are mad about the ballroom because they don't get to skim on the project like they are on other boondoggle in Washington right now. JDP says like, share, and subscribe and turn on your notifications to be notified of upcoming shows. Okay. All right. Triggered says, how about just the ballroom? Okay, just the ballroom.
He said that the ballroom wasn't even actually going to be touching the East Wing, so nothing there would change. But then a couple of days ago, he reversed that. He said that they were going to be pulling part of it down and that they were going to be remodeling it and that it would be better than before when it's all complete.
Sharon Lee says Americans are paying for it just like we're paying for the president to create AI videos of him defecating on the American citizens. We covered that video twice yesterday at lunch. You could go back and check it out. But she makes a valid point. Joseph says this is all on the Democratic. They all suck. Okay. All right. Thank you for your comments.
So, you know, this project is moving very quickly, and there's definitely some confusion for outsiders about what exactly is staying and what exactly is going. But this is a project that the president insists is being funded by private donors to the tune of about $250 million, and that it is going to be a whopping 90,000 square feet, this ballroom, when it's completed, capable of holding about 1,000 people and rivaling the size of the White House itself.
Ooh, that's simply amazing. That's going to be humongous, right, folks? It's going to be humongous. So the singer David, there's an update of sorts in regards to his case when it came to the unaliving of Celeste, which we still don't know who really did it. I don't think anyone has been arrested, but this is a good update.
Or soon-to-be-dead teenage runaway in the trunk of her boyfriend's Tesla and ditched that Tesla on an upscale street in the Hollywood Hills. And weeks later, that Tesla with the rotting corpse inside was ticketed and towed away. That somebody may or may not have had a hand in the runaway's death, but my money is on yes. And more than a month after this mystery first hit the headlines with the discovery of the decomposing body of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the name of that somebody is as unknown to us officially as ever, but apparently not to everybody. The identity of the person who abandoned that Tesla, a filthy luxury car owned by the singer David, with David's 14-year-old girlfriend dead inside, is now known to investigators. And tonight, we're learning that both the car and driver were captured on surveillance video the last time that car was apparently driven by anyone. Even better, we've learned the driver was visible enough in that footage to be identified later on.
So I have the same exact model of this Tesla, and in the very front of it, they have what they call a frunk. It's called a frunk. And so it's pretty big. I mean, but this is allegedly where they found the young girl who, I believe at the time she was roughly 16 years old. So
LA police are not talking about this or anything else in the Celeste death investigation. The bombshell video was unearthed by the private investigator hired by the owner of the house where David lived up until a couple of weeks after Celeste was found dead in his car. And that's not the only piece of evidence that the PI unearthed. That investigator's name is Steve Fisher, and he joins me now live. Steve, welcome back to the program. How certain are you that this video of the car driving away from David's mansion is the last time it drove?
why do you think this guy hasn't been, as far as we know, why do you think he hasn't been arrested or brought in for questioning on a large scale?
And ended up at the spot where it was abandoned, likely with that body inside?
I'm certain. Listen, I can't say 100.
This guy here in the green, he's a private investigator that the landlord of the house that David was renting, he hired him.
Because there's not a camera trained on that Tesla once it's parked continuously that I've seen. I mean, there likely is a camera, but I've seen the car driven to that spot, and with the dates, with the date that it was, and they left town right after that. I'm certain that is the last time the car was driven. It was put there with her, in the front trunk.
Speaking of the ballroom, Steve Pearson says the American people will be paying for that ballroom for years to come. Okay, Patrick says, don't wear a ball cap with the suit. Okay, I'll listen to you, Patrick. Thank you. Triggered says she shouldn't be able to say stuff that isn't factual. Okay. Roberto says the White House is getting a remodel. Federal workers are not getting paid. That's a predicament. That's a sad situation. Paul Tenney says he's part of the issue. It's all about control, and the new MK Ultra is trap music.
And there's one weird detail about what you could, well, there's a lot of weird details, and I'm going to get to what you saw through the driver's side window in a second, but there was an air freshener that was found in the car at this point that we see on our screen, where it was abandoned. Was that air freshener also hanging from the rear view mirror when it drove off from David's house?
It wasn't, but the window was half to 3/4 of the way down, which is odd because it was a very short drive. And also at that on that day, this is the very end of July 29th, it was like 78 degrees at that time in the morning, or 77 degrees. And if it was on the street where the house is, so it's shaded by the house. So, if you're going, I don't know why the window would be rolled down unless there's something, offensive there. And then all of a sudden, one of the first things that I picked up on when the news first broke about the her being found in there, where they were towing the car away from the impound lot to LAPD, was why on a $104,000 car is there a Christmas tree air freshener hanging from the from the mirror? It seemed kind of odd to me, but I guess maybe they thought that would help, mask it for when they had to move the car again.
If there was that smell at that time, because again, we have no idea when Celeste started decomposing in that trunk. We don't know if she'd been decomposing in the trunk for a long time before it ended up being, the car ended up being abandoned. But talk to me about the date of this video, July 29th, and talk to me about what you saw. What did you see in terms of the identity of the person driving through that open window?
So it's very clearly that Tesla, one, because the Tesla has that tape on the rear spoiler for whatever reason. I don't know why it's there. And also, it was just like it is in that picture. It was that dirty, except you could tell that they had run the windshield wiper like once to clear the dirt away so they could see.
Okay, One Love says Tesla self-driving did it. Okay, Roberto says, yes, the American people are also paying for his lawsuit. Patrick says that investigators' eyes are bugging out. Okay. Paul says, I would like to know if later he will be labeled as mental and happen to be on one of those medications. Okay.
It comes very close to the camera, although there is some motion blur, but you can see the person and you can see what they're wearing, something pretty distinctive. And there's photos that I have from 12 hours earlier, a person at the house wearing the same thing.
And I know that the viewers right now are screaming at the TV set saying, Ashley, ask them who it was.
I mean, I honestly wish I could tell you. I don't want to, I don't want to interfere with LAPD on that. And I think that's coming because we know a crime was committed 100%. Somebody concealed her body.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and.
Okay, one of the things that came out about this particular case that I noted is that basically, I guess they said that he initially said this happened while he was on tour, but now it's come out in the media that basically a couple hours after this car was moved, that the investigators talking about that the tour bus actually left. So the car was moved allegedly, and then the tour bus took off. So it's not looking good for whoever's involved with this, but we'll see what happens in the near future. So as you can say, I know the moderators would be able to say that a lot of times the comments are pretty rough. You know, it doesn't matter which channel you're on. People are very negative. They say things to try to get under your collar, right? Or get under your hat, right? Well, anyway, this next video, our final video today for lunch, is about how the younger generation are using vile language and all sorts of things to express themselves about other people, which we try not to do here on Watching the World, as we try to share some love and light, right? Well, check this out. It's quite intriguing.
Generation of Republican activists talk when they think no one's listening, and it's really ugly. Politico obtained more than 7 months of Telegram chat messages between about a dozen young Republican leaders in New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. Now, MSNBC has not independently reviewed those messages, but what Politico published today shows the conservatives openly praising Adolf Hitler, making celebratory jokes about gas chambers and slavery and rape. For example, when the chair of Arizona Young Republicans asked if the New Yorkers in the chat were watching an NBA playoff game, New York State Republican Chair Peter Junta responded, "I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkeys play ball."
Ooh.
We should note that when Politico asked for comment, the Arizona Young Republican chair declined. Junta claimed the release of the chat as part of, quote, highly coordinated year-long character assassination led by an opponent, I think a kind of internecine opponent, a fellow conservative. Out of 28,000 messages obtained, Politico identified 251 bigoted epithets in the chat. There were many more outrageous examples of racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, homophobia than we could or would want to repeat here. Here's the thing. These are not like, we're not talking about kids here. The age limit to the group was 40. Many chat members work inside government or party politics. One's a state senator. Another works in Trump's small business administration. Politico reports that since they began making inquiries, at least 4 members of the chat have lost their jobs or.
So do you guys think this is a new thing? Some of you are mentioning the YNs, which stands for the young, I won't mention the second word. One Love says the YNs are out of control. Paul Tenney says it's tied to the fact that the internet raises the younger people and no family values. Okay, Shadow Pop says these MAGA people don't only think of that. Let me see, the comments are moving so fast. But they are the most dangerous people on earth. Okay, Paul Tenney says it's purposely being done to force a division because if we work together, we would know what is really going on. Okay, Candyman is back. Welcome back, Candyman. You call people Nazi for 4 years, then you cry like children because they make Nazi jokes. Liberals need to get over their self and stop crying about everything. Oh my God. Okay, Roberto says, all depends on how the detectives write the report. Okay, all right, thank you. Let's get back to it.
Had job offers rescinded. Now, this kind of virulent hatred on display here has become quite familiar in Trump's very online Republican Party. I mean, all you have to do is find it. To find it is open a website called x.com, right? And you can see it everywhere. That one's run by Donald Trump's biggest political donor. Or you can see Trump administration officials and official U.S. government accounts on social media exulting in sadistic edgelord cruelty and celebrating hatred and prejudice. But now it's also becoming clear that people who are running the Republican Party at the ground level are just immersed in this cesspit of bigotry. And also, it's not just, abstract. They're acting on it. I mean, this is happening at the staff level during the Republican administration that has been waging a full-scale war on civil rights law from the first day in office. Jelani Cobb is a staff writer at the New Yorker, dean of the Columbia University School of Journalism, author of a new book out today, 3 or More is a Riot, Notes on How We Got Here, a collection of excellent essays. And he joins me now. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
I mean, at some level, this is not surprising.
No.
Particularly because you can kind of see, I mean, it all sounds like stuff you see out in the open.
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem important to me that, to connect, New York Times did this great piece the other day where they were talking about the highest levels of government and all of the officials of color, particularly black officials who have been fired.
That's right.
Lost their jobs.
Yeah.
It's not really an abstraction.
Right.
This kind of bigotry and animus and what this government is currently doing. There, you see it right there.
Yeah. And also I would add to that, other things that are patently obvious. We have had this incredible repressive attack on immigrants, even people who are in the country legally, these are overwhelmingly people of color who we see being thrown to the ground and yanked out of cars and all these. And at the same time, there's this curious benevolence toward white South Africans who are invited into the country. What gives?
Special status.
Yeah, special status. Like, how does that work? I'm old enough to remember the alleged S-hole countries. I'm old enough to remember when Hillary Clinton was pilloried for saying that Donald Trump had aligned himself with a set of people who would be considered deplorable. But we see this kind of language, this kind of grab bag of bigotries, the kind of dueling homophobia, misogyny, anti-Semitism, racism, like all of the kinds of worst traits. And it's been emboldened, has been facilitated by the movement, the Trumpist movement.
One of the things that struck me in reading this piece is, people, there's all sorts of private chats people have. And people, I want to be clear that, like, people say things in private that are different than what they say in public.
Sure.
And all signs of people have private communications that would be embarrassing to be made public. But these people are, coordinating this in the context of a shared political project.
Right.
It's not they're not like talking smack to each other about fantasy football. They are people with power and influence.
Okay, Amanda says, nope, it's the blacks that are racist. Okay. Candyman says, we have to deport thousands of white Canadians and Europeans as well. I'm getting so sick and tired of these liberal bullshit lies.
And it really does strike me that, like, this idea, it has become an affirmative good. JD Vance was just posting, like, refusing to condemn them. The culture of the right now really does embrace this. It's whatever the opposite.
Shadow Pop says, this is the reason we must do everything we can to stop MAGA. Okay, Sharon Lee says, broken people produce children and raise them in a home built on generational dysfunction. Great point.
The opposite of political correctness is, in their minds, is affirmative cruelty and racism exalted.
Yeah, you remember when we saw the young woman who referred to the black child, baby, by the N-word, and then there was this massive wave of money generated for her online in response to being castigated for that. And so this is not uncommon. It's not surprising. The thing that I will say about that is this, though. We have a right to privacy. We have a right to express, ourselves among our friends and our peers in a way that we wouldn't in a professional environment, certainly, sure. But this is into the locker room talk territory.
Yeah, totally.
Where there are things that, are so outrageous that they should be concerning to you.
Like if I wanted to see monkeys play with the ball,
exactly,
go to the zoo.
Irrespective of the context in which it is uttered. And moreover, these are people who hold political power or attached to a political apparatus that impacts the lives of people, of Americans of various kinds of backgrounds.
I also feel like, I guess I've gotten in my middle age stodgy about this or something, but like, I think shame and taboo are really important. I think virtue signaling as opposed to vice signaling is important. And I actually think it's really important for people to be told by other people, hey, that's disgusting what you said. Hey, that's offensive what you said. What you have here on the right these days is a culture that is the opposite.
Right.
That revels in it, right? That like this sort of rebellion against censoriousness or DEI or you can't say anything anymore very quickly turns into we love Hitler.
Right.
As maybe originally a kind of ironic take, but then not so ironic the more you say it.
But I wonder if it ever was that.
Right, yeah, fair point. Yes,
because it's
I'm
like,
being charitable.
Right, but even when you say this, okay, it's censorship, you don't want to prevent people from being able to express themselves, sure. But what people are actually asking for is impunity.
That's right.
As in, you can say these things and there is no social consequence for them.
And that social consequence, in some ways, is like what civilization is made of.
Right.
Right. Honestly.
And so in my middle-agedness, Chris, I will see your demand for kind of maybe common decency and say that I believe that we should bring respect back.
Yeah.
Just a basic level of respect.
Jelani Cobb, a man I deeply respect. Thank you.
All right. So we could bring back respect. What do you guys think about that? Just bring it back, folks. Jose says MAGA is the South rising again, and how anyone who is part of MAGA that are black and brown will never be part of the cult. Okay. All right. All right. Paul says Tulsa, Oklahoma, May 31st, 1921. One Love says black and racist is like oil and water. Don't mix or make sense. Okay. Roy Nellis says Democrats lie, 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 lie. Democrats want to cause chaos. Democrats support and run Antifa. Okay. Cynthia says again, the new classroom. Roy Nellis says Democrats want to control you, and that way they can have the cartel come in and sell drugs because they are the cartel. Democrats own and run Antifa. Okay, Wade says, does Trump have to register as a sex offender? Wow. One Love says, this brother is sweeter than cotton candy. All right, talking about the brother in the gray suit. Well, all right. Triggered says the donors are going to pay for the ballroom just like Mexico paid for the wall. The taxpayers will be the ones paying for it. Gerard says they never have respect. Okay. Deborah says respect is earned. Okay. Smack Q says this is so sad. Okay. But it's the state of the world, folks. And it's something to think about. Trigger says is always a blame game. No one takes accountability. James Logan, welcome in. Thank you, guys. Thank you to everyone who liked and shared and subscribed today. We look forward. We'll be back tomorrow at noon with new hot topics to go over. We look forward to your comments as well. James Logan says the only racial divide is the rich versus the poor. Okay, all right. And according to what I saw when I attended the rally or the protest on Saturday in the city, a lot of people were talking about those billionaires and how the 1 or 2% of the billionaires control the entire masses. So that's something to think about. Smack Q says protect free speech. JDP says like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications to be notified for upcoming shows. So yes, hit the notifications. I also want to ask that when you can, try to check out some of the individual videos that we put out and give it a like to help us push the algorithm even more. Jose says MAGA. Okay, sycophants are too dumb to understand that Antifa is the ideology and not the organization. Okay. All right. Eric says everyone have a great day. JK says no King's Day, LOL. Okay, one love. One love, shout out to you. Thank you for all the support. I saw your other comment as well for your appreciation. I appreciate you too. Paul Tinney says there's only 2 races as of today. Number 1, the smart race, and number 2, the not so smart race. Okay. Eric says shout out to you. One love. Thank you guys for tuning in today. We look forward to seeing you back tomorrow. We have some great videos coming out today, covering some of the crimes that are happening throughout the United States. It's quite sad when we see a lot of these young guys going out here and abusing the young girls or even taking the lives of children. And it's not just the young guys that are doing it, but we really need a change in this world. Like, who raised you? Who created some of these monsters? Why does this happen in life, right? Many of us wouldn't hurt a fly, but you have other people that's what makes them thrive in life, is to cause pain and misery to another human being. There's no love, no cooperation. Like, what's really happening in this world? Just a simple trip to the grocery store or to the gas station could also be your last journey, because you have people who are predators that are out here. Every day, I guarantee you tomorrow, there'll be a new case, a new story of someone life being ended because they ran into a savage individual. What a sad environment, right? Like, what's really happening? Is there a solution? What is the solution? Is it religion? Is it the Bible? What could it be, right? There is no solution from what we have seen so far, although we try to solve these problems as humanity. Sharon Lee says, thank you. It was a pleasure. Sharon, it's always great to see you, and I look forward to seeing more of you and having some exchange of dialogue. JK says many were led into the country by Biden. That's a fact. Whether people want to hear it or not, that's a fact. But It's not just Biden administration. It happens. It even happened on Trump's first administration. James Turner says common sense versus idiots. Okay. So again, thank you guys for tuning in today. We covered, if you want to go back, if you just came in recently, you can go back and check out the press conference where they were talking about the shutdown. I did not hear one solution in that press conference because people are ultimately suffering financially. They're waiting on their services or whatever they get, and they won't get it until this is resolved. So I think that's how Donald Trump won, because he was able to connect to what people really wanted. He listened to those people in his base. Now, whether or not he delivered on it, that's a whole different story. But you have to say he did connect to people. And in many cases, we've seen people connect because of hate. We see people connect because of love. Whatever it is, people connect. And Donald Trump did. He played a masterful game in social media. In fact, Hillary Clinton recently said, right, the reason why the Democrats are sucking in wind is because they haven't learned to connect with people on social media, TikTok, and the like, right? So that's what Donald Trump's administration have been running a strong game on. And it looks like right now the Democrats are stuck trying to figure out the next way forward. What will happen, we don't know. I thought that Epstein Files was going to be the straw that really broke the camel's back, but it looks like it's not the case either. So what's really happening, we really don't know, folks. But in most cases, we're not being told the truth. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm putting out a video about it so you guys can tune in and check it out if you want to. But I know a lot of you guys really follow this stuff as much as I do. You're trying to get an answer. You're trying to figure out the way forward. But when Donald Trump became president, he said that TikTok was an issue, and it was primarily because of China and the information they were harboring of Americans, right? You remember those, right? Those different points. Well, come to find out that one of the main reasons with TikTok being sold or being a problem is because people in Gaza were using their video feeds, putting it on TikTok, and now showing the world what was really happening to babies and kids and women, human beings in general. And remember, this is the reason why Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens say that they were Christians. They saw these videos, and it caused them to turn in their stance against Israel. So Donald Trump says it's China. We start to see something different. Well, Netanyahu came out, I believe, about a week or two ago, and he gave you the real reason why they were behind acquiring TikTok is because TikTok was causing the younger generation to turn their backs on Israel and start to view them as being monsters. So we're not getting the same story. Donald Trump said one thing. It's very clear. I'm going to show you in the video that I'm producing. He said clear, distinct. He did not mention Israel, but now Israel comes forward and they tell us, listen, we're having to make major changes when it comes to humans and the younger generation because they're turning their back on Israel. Their perception of Israel is changing. So these are facts, folks. You have to pay attention. So in most cases, we're not getting the true facts of the matter. But if you take it all in, right, and a lot of us have maybe good memory, photographic memory, and you start putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, then you start to realize that, hey, I'm not getting the real truth here, right? So it's very important for us to really do research. And I try to tell people, having a background in religion and also in Bible scholarship, the original Israel in the Bible, right, from the Hebrew scriptures, is the reason why a lot of people view Israel as so important today, because they see Israel as the same Israel that's in the Hebrew scriptures that they find in the Torah or through Genesis to Deuteronomy, right? So automatically, if you're a Christian, where the Christians came in was in Matthew to Revelation in the Greek scriptures, right? Jesus spoke, he would have spoken Aramaic, but yet all the writings are written in Greek. You have to ask yourself, why? In fact, I'm going to Greece as a part of my program in about 6 months. But when you go to Greece, that's where you find the pantheon of gods. That's where it came from. You have all the gods. You can go read about it, right? Rome is where Christianity kind of kicked off at, right? And then also follow the money. You see the Catholic Church. I went to the Catholic Church about 9 months ago, and I went to Rome, and I saw all these pieces of the puzzle. That's what I do in my spare time. But I say all that to say that because the Christianity, they use the Hebrew scriptures, they see the modern day Israel as God's chosen people still. And most people don't dig enough to know, like, what do all these pieces mean from each book of the Bible and all the different chapters. So at any rate, I don't want to get too deeply into that, but I gave you a case in point of how sometimes you just have to be astute at trying to understand what's really happening. All right, guys. So that's it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in to the channel. Okay, we have some good comments here. One Love says, men do what they want, boys do what they can. Okay. Nobody says Trump is killing America. Nobody says black people are the true Jews. Okay, I could get into that too, but this is not the show for that. Okay. One Love says, okay, we covered that. Okay. Sharon Godboat, thank you for being here. Okay. Cynthia says, amen to no. Okay, very good. Paul says, Jesus saves our souls, Trump saving the country. Okay, very good. One Love says the state of Israel isn't the Hebrews in the scriptures. Okay. All right. So, but that's not what you're supposed to believe. That's not what they want you to believe. But again, most people, right? I'll leave you with this last point. I won't say most. A lot of people, when it comes to religion and of the sorts, they only know little bits of what grandma told them or what they may have heard the pastor saying. A lot of people do not have an in-depth knowledge about the Bible, and it's usually the book that affects them the most. Well, what do you mean? When you go to court, right, and you have to testify, they say, swear on the Bible, right? Right. So although they say they don't want to mix the, the government and the Bible. But anyway, I don't want to get too deeply into that, but it's very important because Israel is viewed the way it's viewed today because people are associating it with the Bible and Israel being God's chosen people. Okay. So that's just a simple point. Not trying to take a shot or anything of that sort. I'm just saying that this is the reason why. So now that's why you hear, or you'll see Netanyahu, they're going on podcasts and they're trying to reach people to change the viewpoint that has developed because people saw the videos of what was happening in Gaza and they started to lose a lot of Christians. And I'm just giving you a little background from a biblical standpoint as to why. But Donald Trump keeps saying these wars have been going on from 500 to 3,000 years. And the reason why he's able to say that is because he's tying modern day Israel to the Israel that you find in the scriptures that were out in search of the promised land. And what's the sad part about life in general today? All of us are fighting, right? We're fighting because of religious viewpoints. And ultimately, the religion is searching for land. Go back and do your research. They're fighting over land. And as Donald Trump says, they've been fighting for thousands of years because why? Because God promised them some land. So millions of people die over land. And even if you cross the aisle and you go into the Islam world, you'll see they have promises from God. And so these religions, they have two different viewpoints against each other, and it's coming from their God. So there's no Trump, there's no man that can really change that, because they have this, they're born and they're taught these concepts that this guy over there, he's your enemy, right? And sometimes when you travel, you see it's just one line dividing these individuals, but across that line, you die. You see what I mean? You see how sad it is? But the problem is we see that religion is supposed to teach us love and unity, but it's bringing death because of the promises of old. And so these people are fighting, and they're fighting, and it's affecting our lives on a grand scale too, right? And now, previously, we weren't able to see this, but we can see it now because we have TikTok, or which they're trying to get rid of TikTok, and Netanyahu told you why. But Donald Trump said it was because of China. So I'm just trying to show you the reason why we do independent news, to try to sort through the propaganda. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry I went on a tangent, but you know, this is my subject matter. So I try to stay out of that box about religion and the Bible, but this is what I study every day. But at any rate, thank you guys for tuning in to the channel. We look forward to reconvening with you guys tomorrow. There's a lot of videos coming out that we produce. Look out for them. If you could, give it a like if you like it. But if not, that's okay too. All right. Have a great day. Be safe out there. When you're in public, do not be buried in your phone looking, because people are doing vile things. They're taking advantage of you not paying attention. So we really need to be smart. And again, the presiding message here, if you are a man, right, no need to hit women, children, even when it comes to the psychological. There's no reason to abuse anyone, right? So we need to change. We need to change. They're making people kings in this social media world who do not have basic values in life. And so you get a guy, you give him a lot of money, you make him great, and then he tells the other generation it's okay to violate a woman if she's not of your race. Like, you know, what's going on in this world? Anyway, I don't want to get too deeply in that either. So thank you guys and have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow to cover the news. We try to do so unbiased. And as the songs say that you're about to hear, we try to promote love and light, folks. That's all. Love and light. Thank you.
Different voices, but the same song. Loving a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Having love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand.